Star Wars Outlaws marks the 5th game that Ubisoft launched in 2024. But if you look at their stock prices, it's at the lowest point in Ubisoft's history, and none of their games were able to bring them back on track. Rainbow Six Extraction, Assassin's Creed Nexus, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, Prince of Persia The Lost Crown, Skull and Bones, Assassin's Creed Mirage, and more recently Star Wars Outlaws. All of these games failed in one way or another. They couldn't get Ubisoft out of the mess like they hoped. Instead, they made it even worse, which is to be expected. Games are, after all, the primary thing they sell, and if you fail to make a single good game out of the 5 you launch in a year, it is going to affect the business. That's also kind of the reason why they don't want you to buy their games anymore. Mirage was supposed to save Ubisoft. It promised to take Assassin's Creed back to its roots, follow the footsteps of the games that people actually liked, and more importantly, the games that made Ubisoft one of the most well-known game companies in the world. But ultimately, even though Mirage did a lot of things right, it felt more like a desperate move to save a dying franchise than a revival effort driven by passion. You know what's funny about Assassin's Creed and Far Cry? On one hand, Ubisoft failed Far Cry because they saw how well the formula worked with Far Cry 3, and so they kept making the same game over and over and over. And on the other hand, they failed Assassin's Creed because they deviated a little too far from its focus. Origins was new and opinions were mixed when it came out, but Odyssey made people realize that the Assassin's Creed franchise they once knew and loved was gone. But Ubisoft didn't stop there. They were aware of the negative feedback that Origins and Odyssey received, but failed to improve on them with Valhalla. Again, Valhalla saw really good sales mainly because of the COVID lockdown, but at its core, the game is just another reskin. At this point, the stock prices had already started to go down. After this, though, came a series of game launches that were not only half-baked upon release, but also managed to be some of the worst games of the decade. Take Skull and Bones, for example, a game about pirates and naval warfare. And somehow, all of its aspects are worse than a game that came out over 10 years ago. Hell, even Odyssey has better naval battles than this piece of it. Then there's Star Wars Outlaws, their latest game. You know, at least EA did a couple things right and made games like Jedi Fallen Order or Battlefront 2. Both games that I have enjoyed playing, but Ubisoft just had to get their hands dirty on Star Wars and slap their classic formula of enemy camps and massive empty open worlds on it. And at this point, everyone's tired of it. Nobody wants another open world game that undercuts other aspects like a good narrative, pacing, combat, traversal, and is riddled with microtransactions. And hence, regardless of their premium price tag, the perceived value of each individual game released by Ubisoft now has gone down, and the company itself acknowledges that. They might not say it, but this is precisely why they want to bundle their games into a subscription plan. Bear with me. I know their focus is more on the influx in revenue that comes with a subscription model, but it's obvious that they will benefit from it in a lot of other ways. And recently, Ubisoft's director of subscription even said, one of the things we saw is that gamers are used to, a little bit like DVDs, having and owning their games. And that's the consumer shift that needs to happen. They got comfortable not owning their CD collections or DVD collections. And that's a transformation that's been a bit slower to happen in games. So it's about feeling comfortable not owning your games anymore. Okay, considering the current state of the streaming industry, it's really not a good idea to follow that path for games. Of course, if you're a company making 5 shit games every year, then yes, subscription is the way to go. And what he said is partially true. We are now very comfortable not owning a physical version of movies because of digitized media and streaming. But that has also led to a very serious issue in the industry, which he entirely overlooked. Monthly prices have gone up, and they keep going up, and the overall quality and the experience of streaming has gone down. Although time and time again, it has been proved that pirating a piece of media has been way easier than paying for it. And that's not just because you don't have to pay for it, but because of the measures companies take to ensure that no one is able to pirate their media, also known as DRMs. But what actually ends up happening is that their media still gets stolen, but the overall experience for the actual paying customers gets worse. Ubisoft would no doubt benefit a lot from a subscription model for their games. For example, this will ensure a constant stream of revenue, which means the sales of a new release won't be as big of a deal as it is right now, because then you can just rely on people paying for games that came out over 5 or 6 years ago. And also, the backlash that comes with launching an unfinished game at a $70 price tag will also be gone because they wouldn't even have to worry about a full launch. There's obviously a lot of money to be made using a subscription model compared to just selling your games. And not only that, it also provides the company with a lot more control over the games. But like everything, there's a problem. People still buy their games all over the world. See, as a company, they're obviously going to try and maximize their revenue. And what the CEO said in the recent meeting about Ubisoft being an entertainment-first company,
"We are an entertainment-first company,"
is only viable if you keep the profits out of it. We have seen what happens when a company starts selling software as a service. The cons always outweigh the pros. Customers get lower quality products and promises that it will improve eventually with future updates, which they never get. And the market sees an influx in competition, which is when every other company in that field also switches to a subscription and make their content only available on their platform. And in this way, companies lose their goodwill because the customer base as a whole is not satisfied with the individual subscription. This, again, leads to the same issue we are having with individual products. Imagine this. Skull and Bones is a shitty game. Since it's not worth buying that game individually, the company sees a better incentive in providing that game and other shit games along with their limited number of good games in a $15 per month plan. Inevitably, other companies start doing that too. And because no one's playing all the games that come with their Ubisoft Plus subscription, suddenly paying $15 a month for 2 games you like to play every now and then doesn't seem worth it. And now that the market is divided into these small subscriptions from different companies, the value of these individual plans starts going down as well. I can assure you right now that you're not going to see a single full release from a company that only rents out their games and doesn't let anyone own them.